think, do we have any apologies?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I've had apologies from Councillor James, who's at a public inquiry, and Councillor Ellis, who is on holiday.
Thank you. And then
Councillor Miles texted me earlier to say he's running a little bit late, so he'll be here.
thank you. And moving on to declarations of interest, may I remind members to make any declarations of disclosable pecuniary and or personal interest they may have in relation to items on this agenda, and if they do have any, you should also declare at this part of the meeting or when it becomes apparent your interest by stating the items you have an interest in, whether it is a disclosable pecuniary interest and the nature of interest, and whereupon you will not participate in the discussion or vote on that matter unless dispensation has been requested and granted, whether it is a personal interest and the nature of the interest. Any extra? No. Thank you. Right, well, if we can move on to item 3, I'm very pleased to welcome Barry Cronin and his colleague Tony, whose surname I forgot.
Armo.
Yes. No, I had a media moment. Tony. Barry is the project manager at Northern City and District Council and is going to give us a presentation on the leisure and cultural development.
I think Tony's going
to give it.
He's going to lead on it, and I'll chip in.
Okay. And could I ask councillors if you could let the presentation be given and then save any questions for the end? Thank you.
Okay. Am I right to stand?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and present to you today the Harpenden Leisure and Cultural Development. My name is Tony Marmo. I'm the Leisure and Heritage Services Manager at the District Council and also the project sponsor for the Harpenden Leisure and Cultural Development. And as said already, this is Barry Cronin, and he is the project manager for the Harpenden Leisure and Cultural Development. So to just go through, we put this slide in as the first slide because it's quite a simple slide in explaining some of the principles of the development. What we aimed to do at the start of the development was to replace things like for like or improve on things. And what you'll see here is a simple slide that shows what is in existence at the moment at Harpenden, and in orange, like for like replacement. So there's been some talk around sports halls and whether they will get bigger, smaller, etc., but we've replaced like for like. So the sports hall will be the same size. However, there are some notable increases in size. And one of those is to cater for more learner pool lessons. So increasing the learner pool size at Harpenden 3 times its current size. So it will be a 17 by 10 swimming pool, whereas at this point in time it's a 13 by 5. So we're trying to increase the amount of capacity for people to learn to swim. Other notable increases in size, the fitness gym at Harpenden Sports Centre at the moment has 3,500 members on a 65-station gym, which equates out roughly, and please don't test my maths, to around about 50 members per station. A typical fitness gym operates on a model of 25 members per station to avoid overcrowding issues and some of those sorts of things. So in order for us to create a suitable gym the size required by Harpenden, we've changed it from 65-station gym to a 160-station gym, which is the same size as the gym at Westminster Lodge. So it's the exact same provision. So what we did was a public consultation process on Harpenden, and what came through that process was a lot of information around the leisure centre side of things. And by the way, to note, we'll talk about the cultural centre in a minute, so if you think I'm ignoring that, I'm not. The leisure centre side of things, they gave us a number of bits of information, and it was quite a simple process in terms of the leisure centre, because I think we kind of got an agreement on this quite quickly. But these are the things that were said in the charrette, so this is what the public stated that they wanted through the consultation process on the charrette. So this is the site as proposed. We're at pre-planning application stage, so we're going through the process of talking to planning officers and making sure that we have met some of the guidelines and stipulations and advice that's been given. So proposed site, as it stands at the moment, there is the clubhouse, which is here, and the depot, which is there, and the idea being to relocate both those buildings to an area here which is currently hidden by hedging, and to remove that pavilion completely, which is currently in the park, and you can see it. So the new provision will be hidden in behind hedges, so it won't be able to be seen from the park, and that pavilion will be removed. There is a 100 spaces car park there, and that is currently in a traffic assessment program, which we're waiting for reports on to kind of confirm that that's exactly as it should be. And then from there, the new leisure centre element is there onwards. So it's that bit of the building. The existing building sits here as the swimming pool as it stands at the moment. And the idea being then, of course, once we've vacated the sports centre and moved it across, the dry-side sports centre, we will then redevelop the cultural space. As I said, don't worry, I'm only focused on the leisure centre first, we'll go to the cultural centre second. So, as it stands at the moment, the existing footprint of the building runs along here and across. So, as we said, what we've tried to do is to create a building that allows us to fit it into the footprint, staying within the red line of an area of land that's deemed for sport and leisure, and not try to go outside of the red line. There is a oak tree here, which obviously we're trying to protect and not have any problems with. So we're staying as far away as we can from the oak tree and creating the building around it. The building will have 80-seat cover cafe area, which will be able to step straight out onto the park, and so park users will be able to come in and use the cafe, have a nice cup of coffee and something to eat. There will be a slight area here where we'll put some seating so people can sit outside onto the park when it's a nice sunny day. As said already, sports hall as per the current sports centre provision. Main hall as per the current sports centre provision, with addition of some seating here and some seating there, so people can spectate on poolside the swimming lessons and the swimming programme that goes on. The biggest and most important part of this really is the addition of the bigger, 3 times bigger learner pool for the lessons. We still have the creche as in existence, and we have a health suite provision, which includes a sauna and steam room. The one provision that we don't have in there is a jacuzzi. The reason for that is to create the plant area that we need to provide for the swimming pool. We haven't got as much space for health suite provision as we had before. Then upstairs, there may be some slight changes for this because we're receiving some feedback around changes, but in essence, 160 station gym and around about 80 square metres of studio space additional to the existing provision at the sports centre. So more studio space as well for group exercise and things like that. I'm going to move you on from this slide. Actually, it was in a pack for an architect, so I'll just move that on because it's just a side facing. So this is a very draft. So this is probably the most draft of all the slides we've got. It's a very draft concept of what the building could potentially look like. We're currently, as I say, in the pre-planning application stage, and we're discussing whether this is the right style for the building, or whether actually there are some other things we can do to change the style of the building. The most important thing that we're trying to be sympathetic to is, of course, it is a park setting. So we're trying to make sure that we show that it's sympathetic to the park through the style of cladding that goes on there, which is, of course, you might be able to slightly see the tree line and leaf designs in the cladding. We're talking to the pre-planning application about that, and I know Barry, we're in early stages.
Yeah, I think the comment I make on this, it was the very early design. If you look at the shape, it doesn't reflect actually the fauna and trees around this at the moment. It's very, very bare. So the next iteration of this, which will go to plans, will show the trees, the hedges, etc., which makes it less stark than it currently shows there.
Moving on. Again, so just basic concept designs around what we potentially could do. As Barry said, at the moment there's a hedge that goes around the building, and there is an intention to keep some of that hedging in place and not lose all of the hedging. So in order for the pre-planning application process to get an understanding of the building, we aren't showing it with the hedging, but we will be showing it for future iterations for pre-planning. And then finally, this is the view from the car park. So at the moment, you see a very yellow brick building with blue roof lining. The proposal is to take away all of the yellow brick and put a wood fence type effect around it, and of course take away the blue lining and clad a cleaner, greyer type of colour to take away all that that colour that's there at the moment. This is our architects being a bit trying things out. One of the key things that the charrette talked about was a public square or a community square as such, or a community space, and they identified that that would be the link between there. The purple arrows denote potential walking routes into the public square. Our architects have been looking at some of the public square concepts, and then some of the concepts around what the car park surface will be like, and how they might make that car park surface synthetic, so grasscrete and self-draining block pavements. We'll move on from that one. So as you can see, they're now starting to look at some of the more detailed landscaping points around what might the focal points be, what the walkway routes are, what the desire lines will be within the new building. So it just kind of gives you an idea of how people move around the spaces. Again, this is very draft, and I know that there is a further iteration that's about to happen of this, given some of the feedback. So if I can explain, the further iteration is to keep that into a grassed area. The most important bit of this that it's really showing is that what we're trying to do is to create a nice walkway down the side of the building, because at the moment you've got the very narrow path that at night is quite dark, and you've got the car park where the staff park currently, and what we're proposing to do is to take out that staff car park, widen the pathway, light it better, and make it a much more friendly walkway than it currently probably is. And we are currently in discussion around whether that works as a community square, to see whether we've got that right or not. And this is just really showing, as I said, there was no hedging shown in some of the diagrams, but actually we are leaving hedging there, so that if you're on the park side, there'll be less intrusive, the building will be less intrusive. And what we're proposing is potentially some sort of self-draining surface here, but making sure that we've landscaped within that area. And again, this is our architects just kind of coming up with ideas and seeing, giving us an idea of what potentially the materials might be for the material for the flooring in the community space or the public square area, and just how they might work things. Definitely not anything yet in its actual entirety. So this is the second part of the development, but probably the first part of the development, if I'm being honest. The public consultation told us that this building here, the cultural centre, is highly in need, and lots of people are looking forward to having the building. So we had a great feedback from the charrette, and they came up with some really, really good ideas that we've incorporated and taken forward. Some of those ideas were around the size of theatre that we were in need of. So a 511-seat theatre, currently at Harpenden Public Hall, they seat 398, so that's an extra 113 seats. The other bit that's really good about the building is it allows us greater other functional space that we can we can offer to the community, and we can give them plenty of options on sizes of rooms. So there are two multifunctional rooms, and they total 270 square metres. And there is a further room downstairs, which is a cultural exhibition room, which will help the History Society as well. There's an accessible stage area and accessible entrance, and increased capacity to provide refreshments during intervals. As we got told in the charrette, at the interval, everybody leaves the public halls and goes to the Harpenden Arms because there's not enough space to provide provision. So we've provided lots of provision for refreshments at the intervals and beforehand. And this is the building. Okay. Right, so this is the ground floor, but you don't access it from the ground floor. So I'm going to go to the first floor first, I think. Yeah. So one of the key things that the charrette came up with, and it was one of the best ideas, was to create a new entrance which ramps up to the upper floor into what is currently a dance studio for aerobics. So that would then become your entrance with your box office and a bar cafe area there, which could be used during the day as a relaxing area to get a coffee and have a bite to eat. It then allowed us to put in a balcony seating area, which is 174 seats. So the idea is you come up to the entrance and you'll be able to go into the balcony seating area, access it through there or there. And what we're doing is we're putting in a cinema screen, which will run across here. So it can create a little intimate cinema of 174-seat cinema for certain things to happen. From there, we've then got on the first floor, two function areas. One with good glazed areas to be able to see out into the park, so a nice area to have a wedding or a meeting, or as happens at the moment, to be able to do a dance studio or something like that. And then the second room is actually a non-windowed room, and it's a box that can be used for other things, and certainly would lend itself for something where we don't need any natural light. There's also kitchen space to be able to provide meals, etc., etc. So we're now going down the stairs. The stairs are just here, so we go down the stairs, and directly in front of us is what we're deeming to be a smaller function room, but actually an exhibition area for cultural, museum and art. So definitely a community-led space, I think. We're providing a museum archive space. We've been in consultation with the History Society, and they have discussed with us the potential for archive space for them in the new building. And then from there, a very, very long cafe bar area for half-time intervals so that people can get a drink. And there will be about 5 serving stations there. What we're aiming to do, hopefully for a grant, is get a timeline of Harpenden put into this wall area, so that while people are having a refreshment, they can have a read of the Harpenden timeline, a bit similar to what we're doing at the new museum and gallery project. And then to access into the seating area, you go through here or round the back of the bar area, and this bit here is seating on a bleacher seating that can be pulled back to go retract into this gap here. So it goes into the gap. Can I have the next slide, please? Gotcha. And then the final bit of seating is also retractable, but it's dug into a pit. So this was a bit of advice that we were given by the ABTT, which is the Association for
Theatre technicians. So there's a group of experts who come together and give free advice. So we had a very long meeting with them, and they looked at the plans and they gave some advice as to some new ways of looking at how to use it to make a theatre. And this is one of their ideas, to create a flat stage, which Tony explained.
So what this does is it does three things. The first thing is, if you're sitting in these seats, you still have the impression that you're at a raised stage. So it gives quite a clever impression of a raised stage, because you're actually sitting below ground level, so it's a dugout pit. The second thing it does is, if we needed to, we could then house the orchestra there if we needed to. So they're the two things that we're looking at. But the third thing it does is, when we retract this seating and retract this seating, we can put a floor across here, and then we can use the full length of the room, including the stage, to be able to do function. So it was quite a clever idea that was given to us, and we felt it worked really well. Not much really to say in terms of that looking like what it will look like, because it doesn't. This was a very early draft look at how the ramp might work and where it might go. If we go back to the landscaping, so the ramp is going to actually look like that. So there'll be a stairway up to the entrance there, but if you need to have a flat entrance, that's the ramp up. So we've got two options going forward. Yeah, that's it. So that's it.
Thank you.
Happy to take it.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I'm really particularly excited about the big art centre, and we'll invite Councillor to ask their questions. Councillor Lily, I think, has her hand up first.
Thank you. I know that you must have covered it, but it's not obvious from the drawings that you've done how the disabled will get from the ramp going up to the first floor down to the seating area.
You go to the next one. So here is a 13-person lift. It's a very big lift.
Right.
Okay, and that gets down.
Thank you.
I think the thing to note about that was, we're hoping to place 4 disabled parking bays specifically just for the centre here,
Yes.
just to the side,
Right.
just outside, so that they will have access into the building. The only extension, only new bit, is the bit that Tony pointed to now, which is it's a new staircase, it's the new lift. Everything else is within the current sort of structure of the building.
David?
Whilst we're on that slide, Tony, can you just explain access to the rear of the stage for lighting and scenery and all those sorts of things, and how that's going to connect with either this building or the entrance into the park here? That's question number 1. I've got another one.
Yeah, so access is just there, and have we got a slide? Does it cover on the slide?
It doesn't come behind that.
Basically, the access will be through here and then into there, and then reverse back out.
Are there any trees to take out?
At the moment, no. We may request to remove just 1 tree on the corner. It's not critical. It just allows a bit more of a secure turn and circle for vehicles to reverse in and out. But that is a request that we may or may not ask for. I think the interesting thing about, because it's ground level, because the stage is ground level, so the access actually comes in off the floor. So you actually come off with ground through the doors onto the stage. So there's no lift. There's no need to get an access lift all the heavy equipment up onto a stage, which is normally, it could be a metre to 2.5 high.
And then can we just go back to the leisure centre, and Can you describe the flow through the building, Tony? Because on the one hand, you've got the cafe on the park side,
Yeah.
but then you've got an entrance, I assume, on the Engbury Lane side.
We don't.
Ah, okay. So if I park up at the car park at the front, how do I gain access?
We're
to
going
the
to be
building?
directing you to come down the
Okay.
space here and around. Yeah.
Or if you choose to park in the green car park, then there'll be access, which will be the closer access to the new entrance.
Can you put this on?
Yeah.
Just build that. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be encouraging people when they're parked to just walk down the side there. And of course, you know, probably just walk down the side.
I think
It
that
was one of the things we toyed with. The operator did say that they were discouraging us from putting two entrances into the Red Channel. They felt it was a challenge to do that.
Yeah, and you know, I can appreciate how important the park side is in terms of views and aspects. Can you just go back to the slide which had the floor plan on? And do you just want to run your finger, Tony, sort of, you know, as we go, you come to the admission area, presumably you pay your money, and then how do you go off for a swim, and how do you go off?
So you're coming in here, this is the reception area just here,
Okay.
and then you go through the turnstiles and up here and around. These are the change rooms. Once you've changed, you come out this way, that'll get you into the main hall, and that'll get you into the main.
And then the steps to go upstairs.
At this end, there's two lifts there,
Right.
and they're the steps that take you up.
I think Councillor Maynard had a question.
If you go to the other one,
The cultural hub.
the cultural hub, name keeps changing. Right, well, first I'd like to just make a general comment. This is, I went to all the original charrette meetings. I sat through 7 of them. I think you've really captured what people were trying to achieve through that. I've just seen the general design. I've seen it at different stages, but I've not seen the final one. I think you've captured a good 90% of what people wanted, and I think the way you've structured the stage is absolutely ingenious. You're going to get a West End experience, but we're also going to have a very large meeting room, which is something that happened and is needed for some time. So I think that's excellent. So my comment is a really small one. If people are in that function meeting room and the only door into the museum is through it, it means that nobody can get into the museum.
Okay, so we have addressed that, but we haven't got it in a diagram format. So we're currently talking around how we get access.
I was going to say you have to put access through from the cafe bar and probably close that off, and then that gives more wall space to put things and just have the access through the cafe bar.
Yeah.
I think it's been a very iterative thing, so the designs are changing very rapidly as we listen to feedback from individuals. So we're getting to the point now where, as Tony says, there are some changes to this which have occurred in the last 2 or 3 weeks because of feedback from particular user groups or interest groups who made a comment originally or have only just come on board now with some comments. So it's been a live document and a live presentation. But we're getting to the point now, Councillor, where we're nearly have to be a final decision what the shape of the building.
How many, from the bar, how many access points into the theatre? Because one could be a problem, you need at least 2 or 3.
Yeah, so there are 2 at the moment, but you're right to say that we did have a set of doors here, and the theatre technician advisors actually said that they would advise to take that out. Just creates for better acoustic, but we can toy with that again and work that through, because you're right to say there are only two
And
real
just think if there was
entrances.
a fire, 500 people trying to get out to the doors.
There are fire exits here and here
Okay.
as well, onto the outside.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Lineker, perhaps unless anybody else has got anything a burning desire to ask, make that the last question.
Oh, well, that's coming.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Heritage has a question.
So going back to, I'm thinking more of wheelchair stables. If you're on the top floor and your only access is a lift and there's a fire, how are you going to get out?
So there's a fire exit this way, and we can take you directly out that way, and that way, and that way. So there are 3 entrances out. There's a fire exit out that way.
I think
How are they getting down then? Sorry.
Sorry, they're on the
They're on
ground.
the top, no, they're on the top floor. So they've gone up in the lift.
They'll,
There's a fire on the top
Yeah.
floor.
they'll go out.
They're just easy accessible. Okay,
So
fine.
that's the way out from
And,
here.
and the other thing, well, what normally happens is you create safe spaces, which are fire safe spaces, so disabled people can be taken there in the first instance, and then they're protected before they can be moved out. And with this whole fire strategy put in place around, obviously it's a big building with lots of people, so all of those things will have been considered and obviously wholly appropriate.
Sorry, just one query that local residents have raised with us. The current users of the solarium and spa are quite upset that it hasn't been included in the new plan. I haven't got an answer to them.
Okay, so if we go back.
I know that we said there's a plant room there, but I can't understand.
Okay. So at the moment there are two rooms that are available as a sauna and steam room. In the new building we're putting in a sauna and steam room. What we're currently in discussion with is whether we have the ability to put in a small area which is the lounging area that is currently in the health suite. The bit that we can't really put back, and we wouldn't be able to, is the jacuzzi area. And the reason is simply because in order to put the jacuzzi area back, we would have to lose some of that swimming pool space.
Right.
Because we've got a limited footprint to be able to put things in. And the key thing that came out of the charrette was to make sure that we increased the size of the learner's ability to swim. So the thing that we just really couldn't put into the space was the jacuzzi. And it's not so much about the jacuzzi, it's about the plant space that's required to service that.
Because it's a whole separate M&E solution to have the jacuzzi, and as Tony's explained, because all the new plant has to serve both pools plus the whole of the building. All of that space, which is not reflected there, is required for the mechanical and ventilation and the water treatment. But we're looking at a way in which we can possibly move the storeroom and create an extra third space, because I personally had a lot of those questions as well from that particular group. I think the key thing from the majority was it was the relaxation area, which they missed more so than having the jacuzzi. So what we're trying to do is to reconfigure that space so they'll have the sauna, they'll have a relaxation piece in the middle, and then they'll have the steam as well, plus the shower, so they would effectively just lose the jacuzzi. So we've tried to listen and try to do something about that.
And I think the final thing to say as well on that, there was one particular member who's very knowledgeable in terms of their past history in leisure centres, and they have questioned the size of the plant room, and so then I went away and questioned our M&E designers on exactly why the plant room is the size it is. And basically there's been a lot of guidance around making plant rooms big enough so that people are safe within the plant rooms, and where we were 10 years ago in terms of how much space we are allowed to we should be providing to how much space we have to provide now to make the plant room safe has completely changed. So one of the key things that if we showed the M&E design, you'd see a big strip of space here, and you'd think, well, we could put the jacuzzi in that space, but we can't actually, because that space is the escape area, and they say that we have to provide that. So to get the level of plant room into, so that we can provide these two spaces, has really given us the biggest challenge in terms of the jacuzzi. But we're definitely listening, and yeah, we're about to look at how we develop the offer at the health suite, given the feedback that we've been given.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, very quick about
I've seen this before, isn't there a movable floor in the learner pool?
Yes, there is a movable floor in the learner pool, which will allow the swimming club
to be able to use that as a way of working on their starts and their dives and things like that.
Thank you very much, Barry and Tony, for joining us tonight and giving us that update. I think we're just hugely looking forward to getting these new facilities, which will be a tremendous addition to the town.
I'm more than happy if any of the councillors have further questions or want me to come and sit down with them for half an hour to go through this again and answer it on a one-to-one basis. I'm more than happy to come up and
Thanks very much.
chat
Thank
with
you.
you.
And you're not obliged to sit through the rest of the meeting. I imagine you'd like to go home. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Place, we will go into the agenda, and the next item is the Mayor's report and urgent items. Well, actually, it seems an awfully long time since the last council meeting. I don't think it was that long ago, but it seems it with the summer. So I hope everybody's had a good summer and enjoyed what good weather we did have. I'm still trying to get my holiday, but I'm going away late October, so I've had a very busy schedule since our last meeting, and that's included a civic visit to our twin town in Germany, Alpsai, when I went with the Friends of Alpsai, and we had a long weekend with a very full schedule, and I was able to give the greetings of the town council to our counterparts in Alpsai. Other highlights have included larks in the parks at Bradford Springs, a Highland gathering, classics on the common, and the Teddy Bears picnic. The latter was very well attended despite the fact the weather was not very good, but I'm very pleased to say it didn't put the teddy bears or the children off. And once again I would like to say a huge thank you to the organisations and volunteers who do work so hard to put on these events, which are so enjoyed by the whole town. Looking forward to Christmas and its run-up, beginning to creep towards it. My diary is already looking very full, and I'm hugely looking forward to a wide variety of engagements over the next 3 months, and of course to the switching on of all our Christmas lights. And finally, could I give councillors a couple of reminders? Firstly, I understand that most of you are yet to let Jane know if you will be attending the opening of the Field of Remembrance Poppy Appeal launch on the 28th of October. Would be grateful if you could let her know by Thursday, as the Royal British Legion will be laying on catering, so it's helpful if they could know. And secondly, to those of you who have not yet bought your tickets and are planning to come, don't forget to buy your tickets for the Mayor's Magical Wine Tour on the 3rd of November. And also, as ever, raffle prizes will be gratefully received. So thank you. And do we have any urgent items?
We don't have any.
We don't have any urgent items. In which case, we're moving on to item 5, which is public questions in accordance with Standing Order 22. And we do have a public question from Mr. Adam Schutkever. And could I ask you if you would like to ask your question?
Sure. I'd simply like to ask the Council what its position is regarding the Civil Aviation Authority Performance Impact Review on Luton Airport runway 26. I would hope that you're familiar with the issues surrounding the runway 26 changes, which involved effectively routing a large proportion of outbound traffic from Luton over the south of Harpenden and the north of St Albans in a very narrow corridor at a very low altitude at a time when the airport was massively increasing in size. It's my view that there was an entirely flawed consultation exercise that was carried out by the airport. And this is a great opportunity, possibly the only opportunity of a formal nature, to get the regulator, the Civil Aviation Authority, to look into the effectiveness of the changes in the routes with a view to requiring some changes. I'd like to know what the Town Council's position is on this. And I have actually sent to Carl in advance of the meeting a paper prepared by my friends at Harpenden Sky, following quite a lot of research into this, which has been sent to the Civil Aviation Authority, which councillors may find informative and useful.
Thank you very much. Right, first of all, the Town Council does take a very keen interest in the development of Luton Airport and has previously commented on consultation documents, and I would add that those responses have been very robust, and we will continue to do so. We have yet to submit a response to the review, but have noted the deadline of the 2nd of October, and it is proposed that the Town Clerk will draft a response to the review that is signed off by the Town Mayor and the Chairs of Community Services and Policy and Finance Committees. And in producing the response, the Town Clerk shall consider the submission made by Harpenden Sky. And I'm asking, and I know it's rather short time frame for you, but of course we're all catching up on holidays and the Town Clerk has been away, but I am asking that if councillors have any comments that they would wish to be considered in the submission, that they could email me now, that they consider the submission at this meeting, if they could email, well really to the Town Clerk by ideally noon on Thursday the 28th September, so Thursday this week. If you do have any comments, I'd be grateful. And those can be taken into account when drafting our response. Thank you. That's fine. And don't feel obliged to stay for the entire meeting. Thank you. And moving on to item 6, questions previously submitted by members of the council, and we do have a question which has been submitted by Councillor Canfield. Shall I just read that out? Yes, I'll just read that, which is that given that the Speaker of the House of Commons has announced male MPs no longer have to wear ties in the House of Commons, will Harpenden Town Council also be breaking from convention? Well, in fact, the Town Council does not have a written dress code for council meetings. And doesn't necessarily expect male councillors to wear ties. However, the Town Mayor would expect councillors to dress in an appropriate and professional manner for all meetings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Moving on to item 7, confirm the minutes of the council meeting held on the 26th of June 2018, which have been circulated, which I'm assuming all councillors have read. Are members happy that I sign these minutes as a true and fair record of that meeting?
Agreed.
Yes.
Thank you. Bear with whilst I now sign entry page. I don't need to state every page, do I? No. Thank you. Right, moving swiftly on to item 8, which is the minutes of committees and working parties reporting to the council. And first of all, 8.1 Planning A Committee minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to invite members to receive the minutes of 4 meetings of Plans Committee A. The meeting on the 13th of June, the meeting of the 11th of July, the 8th of August and the 5th of September. There are no recommendations to Council.
that we received those minutes voted. And Plan B Committee.
I'm pleased to present to Council minutes of the Planning B Committee held on the 28th of June, the 25th of July, the 22nd of August. Brian's not here, thank you for chairing the meeting in my absence. No recommendations to present to Council.
Just receive those minutes, thank you. And item 3, if I could invite Councillor Lineker, in the absence of holiday, Councillor Ennis, to present those minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'm delighted to present the minutes of the Community Services Committee held on the 5th of July. There are no recommendations to Council.
Thank you. Human Resources Committee, no, I don't need to change that, no. To receive the minutes of the meeting held on 14th of July, circulated herewith. Members will note that there are also minutes in blue which we will be taking at the end of the meeting when we go into the second part of the meeting. But there are no recommendations for the public minutes. And Strategic Planning Committee, Councillor Ellis is away, so... No, who charged it? No, you charged it, didn't you? Yes, you charged it, didn't you? Sorry, so like Councillor
Represent to Council the minutes of the Strategic Planning Committee held on the 3rd of August, the details of which are on page 69. No recommendations other than those mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Just take those as well. Thank you. So that might be a bit of a record, no recommendations. Really good. So can we move on now to the officers' reports and begin with 9.1 forward planner, which is attached. No, I think I will let do councillors have any questions, or are they happy that we accept the forward planner as it is? It's very straightforward.
Yes.
Thank you. No, we'll just note that. The item 9.2, LCAS, the Quality Gold Accreditation Update, a report is attached. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, just a very quick couple of words, Madam Mayor. Yeah, so page 73, as you'll be aware, we're on a journey to trying to achieve Gold Award accreditation, and we're doing really, really well. Attached in Appendix 1 is an update as to where we've got to with the action plan that you approved a short while ago, about October actually, not so short now, is it almost a year? It's scary. So any comments on it, you're more than happy to take them on any questions. The plan is to submit the accreditation in January 2018. Originally that was November, but we've just given ourselves an extra couple of months just to make sure that we're completely satisfied that we've got the best chance possible of actually achieving what we want to achieve.
Any questions? Well, then we will just take the thought. Thank you. And then I think item 9.3, a verbal update on the neighbourhood plan.
Yes. So, Madam Mayor, the neighbourhood plan has made good progress. I know the majority of the people in the room are, or if not all of them, are involved in it. Where we're currently at now is we are, steering group's busy looking at the draft neighbourhood plan. So it's the first time they've received it in all its glory, so all the different elements that's been worked on since the beginning of this year has all come together into a document. The plan is for the steering group to be considering that over roughly the next 6 weeks. And the one change that the steering group has made, slight change to the timetable, is they've given themselves an extra month at the point of drafting the neighbourhood plan before we go out to the next consultation. Because what we want to make sure, and what the steering group wants to make sure, is that it's as robust and as complete as it can be when it goes out for the next consultation. Originally, we were due to go out for the statutory consultation next week, but that's now going to be the first week in November. It has very little impact on the end date, but we just wanted to make sure that we had enough time to do what we need to do.
Are there any questions? Yes, okay, so we'll note that update. And then 9.4, members have a report which they hopefully have read on the council business plan update.
Yep, so
Did you want to add anything to that?
if I could, just
Yes,
a couple of
please do.
things, Madam Mayor. So this is the second time you've received an update on the business plan, but it's the first time that you've seen the performance indicators that are on page 96 and 97. Within the performance indicators, you would have seen that there are a number of columns, but there's two on the right-hand side. There's a 2016-17 figure, so where we have got a figure for a performance indicator from last year, we have included that in there. And also for some of the indicators, we have targets. It's not appropriate to have a target for all indicators, but we have tried to incorporate them in there where it is appropriate. Hopefully you'll see and hopefully you'll feel, and you might tell me different in a minute, that I think we're making really good progress against our business plan, both in terms of the performance indicators, but also the update against all of the individual items. And I just wanted to flag a couple of things that are actually in the performance indicators themselves. Firstly, to say, you'll probably note that a couple of them have gaps, and where there are gaps, it's where we're reliant on a third party providing us with information. So, for example, the August figures on the income for Lydecker car park, Madam Mayor, we haven't quite received them at the time of this going out. I still haven't got them, so that's not in there at the moment. And also under the planning item, where it looks at the percentage of committee recommendations that have agreed with SADC decisions, there's some backlog in actually getting that information off the district for us to then compare how we've got. So, but we should have that done actually by the end of next week. So we can circulate them if we wish to. Just a couple of things I'd like to flag in there. One under Town Hall information point, just to flag under the value of income transactions taken on behalf of the District Council. So in spite of the district no longer giving us a grant to run information point, we have almost taken £34,000 for them in the first 5 months of this year. And we're well on the way to meeting the figure that we had last year, which was £114,000. So that isn't physical money that we handle, but it's actually transactions that go through us due to the fact that we've got this face-to-face support service here at the Town Council. Under the planning section, in terms of number of applications reviewed, in light of the item that we've got next, that figure will obviously go down over the coming months because we're, if you were to approve it, refreshing our approach to planning. And then the last thing I'd just like to reflect on is the communications and the social media side of things. You'll remember that we recruited a communications and marketing officer, and her role was to come in and promote everything that we're doing as a town council, but really importantly, work with the voluntary sector, work with local businesses to really showcase everything about Harpenden. And you'll see the figures here that actually we're making really good progress with our social media. The number of tweets and the number of Facebook posts vary depending on what's going on. I think a couple of the key things. One is around the average impressions per tweet, which if you're not too familiar with social media, that basically means every tweet you send out, what's the average number of people that see it and have access to it. That's slowly increasing. And also on Facebook, the number of people that are actually engaged users under the analytics of Facebook has doubled in the last 3 months. So I think we're making really good strides on that. And I think that's credit to, firstly, getting the post in place, but also the work that Sophia is doing at the moment to really push everything that's going on. Nothing more to add, but I'm really welcome your questions.
I was only going to add on the communication side of things. There has also been, it may not start, but there has been a noticeable, not huge, but noticeable increase in the amount of coverage we are getting in the press. So there is some effectiveness there as well in improving relations, or improving our coverage from local newspapers. I'd like to ask councillors any questions, and I think Councillor Cooley.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question. It's a very comprehensive list of goals and targets, and I just wonder how often we plan to review the target.
So I think the targets that we've got in the performance indicators, some of them are based on previous figures, so we're trying to make sure that we at least hit that income, or it's an income figure. Some of them are targets from within the budget, so they'll be reviewed annually. But I think some of them where they're fairly new performance indicators, we're keeping a bit of a quarterly eye on them at the moment. And I think the key thing with all the performance indicators, once we get to the end of this financial year, we'll be able to have month-on-month comparable figures for each year. So at the moment we don't necessarily have any benchmarks to say, how did we do last April, last May. But once we go through one full cycle of this, we'll be able to compare, and I think that's when the targets will become especially important.
Thank you very much. Carrie?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just have a question regarding the business plan, item 47, about promoting the vitality and viability of the town centre, Southdown and Batford retail areas. Are the suggestions and ideas in these meetings you're having with businesses and retailers, are they being fed into any committees of the council? Or is it all just private?
So it's a very good question actually. So far they haven't been fed into any committees. They've only been fed into the updates through the business plan. Mainly because it's been very early days in the conversation. So we've been really trying to work with the retailers and independent businesses every month to really try and understand what we can do to make a difference. So just to give a bit of an update, when we first had the first couple of meetings where we were talking about trying to understand issues, the two big things that came out to start with, one was around interest rates, which of course is a very important issue, but something that we have very little control over. Secondly was parking, and kind of two sides to parking. One in terms of capacity, which we all know can be seen as a bit of a problem in Harpenden, but also the way in which the enforcement is carried out. So on the back of that one, we invited to our last meeting representatives of districts to come and hear some of the concerns from the retailers. So we looked at those two particular issues, saw what we can and can't do, but then really drilled down to, and this is where our focus is, and that is very much on marketing, publicity, advertising, because the majority of small businesses that we were talking to don't necessarily allocate money or budget to that. So we decided that collectively that's perhaps the best way that we can use our resources. So our next meeting, which is this Thursday, we are going to be pitching to the retailers some ideas around some branding, some logo, to try and get a feel as to whether they think where we've gone with it so far is in a good way. And off the back of that, then it will be the case for that to go through the Community Services Committee in the future, once the retailers have worked things up. I think what we've been really keen, Madam Mayor, is to make sure that as a town council we're not telling them what we can do. It's been very much we need to listen, and together we need to come up with ways in which we can help their businesses. And I think that's the way that we'd like to continue.
Good.
Any other questions? Thank you. Then we can move on to item 9.5, which is the planning function review, the report is attached, which I think is a review and changes that are, well, I say overdue, but I think certainly should make considerable improvement to how we manage planning meetings.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I think you're quite right in saying overdue, actually. I think I've long been of the opinion that it's a bit preposterous, the time and energy that members and officers in particular put into it. At times I think it's led to a great deal of confusion amongst members of the public. I think certain members have taken on airs and graces, should we say, that perhaps they should not have. And there have been, frankly, abuses of the service that the Town Council has tried to offer. And actually, what we've seen, so to speak, I mean, to sum up what it says in somewhat more eloquently in the paper, I think you've got to ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze? And in this case, I don't think it really has been. And I think what's really good about this is it doesn't say no planning at all, which some people have advocated in the past. It says we should look at, we should be spending that time, looking at quality advice from the Town Council where it's really needed at the district. And I think that will really help. My memory of being on Plans North is that too often it sort of gets completely sort of glossed over when you're on Plans North. Oh, the district says this, highways say that, but who's read it, sort of thing. So I think that's really good. One thing I would like to do, though, is item number 3.5, just checking. I'm using my mobile to read the report. At 3.5, it says that the following won't be covered, and one of those, third from the bottom, is advertising. I would actually suggest that this is amended so that advertising in the conservation area is always covered. The reason for this is that in the past, I know the Town Council has actually been decisive in preventing some rather unsightly illuminated fascias, things like that. Domino's Pizza, for instance, when they came to the town, is one that sticks in mind, and there have been various other businesses. I think it is important that we keep that in, because the sort of corporate image, if you like, of Harpenden on the high street, on the green, I think it's something that we all in this council want to preserve, and it's important to keep half an eye, a weather eye, so to speak, on advertising the conservation area. So with that amendment, I'd be more than happy to support that.
I would support that myself, because I know that I think we're all probably aware of occasions when we have had to comment upon, step in when there have been in the conservation area inappropriate. So if we could, if members were all agreeable to that amendment. Yes. Subject to. Yes. Are there any other? Yes, Councillor Paul.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Having moved, if you move to a 3-week cycle, as a statutory consultee, we only have 3 weeks. Is it going to fail up the response to just do it, falling out of time? We can just do it.
Yeah. So yes, that's correct. So, Madam Mayor, yeah, it won't impact on our ability to give comments and the impact that they will have. It does work out fine. The last week is pretty tight, but it just means logistically we have to do some things in officer time downstairs that will help that. I think if I could just add one thing, just to reflect on Councillor Chisholm-Miles as well. I think the really important thing to make this a refresh and a not taking away some of the services is that next year we will have this neighbourhood plan, and actually that then does give the town council genuine teeth in terms of planning. And so the planning function, will go from a kind of consultee to actually we will be saying this is in our neighbourhood plan. You should therefore approve, reject it based on that. So I think it's really important that we have a strong planning function still that is efficient and effective.
Any other questions? Councillor?
Well, Chair, just as the chairman of Plans A, I have to say I'm very supportive of these proposals. I think it's fair to say that our work on the 2 planning committees over the last, certainly since I've been a councillor over the last 6 years or so, has brought some significant credit to the town council, and I think of some of the major applications that we've seen at Park Place, at Glen Eagles, at the Harpenden House Hotel, where our responses have been quite critical in either getting changes to those applications or getting them withdrawn. So in that sense, I think we have had a very positive impact. I'm very appreciative of the work that Mim and Heather in particular do in terms of supporting the committees, but the workload is candidly quite onerous for all of the applications that we go through. So I'm very supportive, and the suggestion of Councillor Chichester-Miles in relation to advertising I think is again important. I think just a couple of weeks ago we highlighted to Waitrose that they didn't have lit signs, and they took that away and they changed their planning application as a consequence, and now they've gone to unlit signs as part of their refurbishment. And I, reflecting on a lot of concerns, for instance, in and around Brayley's and the Harpenden Lane petrol station, there have been a number of issues in relation to lit signing there, which is still part of the conservation area. So I think the issue on advertising is a positive one. So I'm very supportive, and I think this is long overdue. We have tried for a number of years to get some changes in this area, and I'm very appreciative for the town clerk bringing this forward and coming up with some very practical proposals for us.
Thank you. I was just going to comment before we move to vote on this that one very, and I think it is important, the factor that comes out of this reorganisation is the fact that up until we brought this in, it has meant that neither Mim nor Heather has been able to take more than a week's holiday at a time, which I think is quite long, and this will rectify that situation, which I am very pleased to see. So could I first of all ask Council to agree 211, the new approach to the types of applications set out in 3.3, subject to the proposed amendment regarding advertising, so if you could just Thank you. 212 to agree the new meeting cycle set out in 37. And 213 agree to the renaming of the committees to Planning Advisory Committee A and B. Thank you. And then if we now moving on to item 9.6, which is regarding the proposed 20-mile-an-hour zone in Grove Road area. The report is attached, and Councillor Teresa Heritage has joined us tonight, and I have agreed that if members do have questions appropriate for Terry to answer, I'm more than happy for Terry to speak and answer them. Okay? So, can I ask, do members have any questions? I mean, personally, I'm supportive of it, and it's actually, I must say, I know when I'm driving around, particularly in the West Country, it is increasingly common to see these sorts of zones put in, particularly where they are around schools.
I would just like to say I would like to support this. I would just like to say I would like to support this, and but moreover, I think that more areas of Harpenden would actually benefit from 20-mile-an-hour limits, because we have a number of boy racers in our community, and I know that residents are fearful for their children and their pets in many of our streets.
Thank you. Councillor Chichester.
I certainly agree with Councillor Maynard about pets. I think there's a spate actually of people moving cats, and you think they're fairly speedy things, in my ward actually, in Harpenden West, and I'm sure it's the same in Harpenden East. I just wanted to remark that, yeah, I think this is well overdue. I congratulate Councillor Heritage for getting this done. I think I certainly speak for Councillor Gillam as well, and I say we're only here in this chamber today because of our success at dodging boy races. So I'm glad that future generations of primary school children won't put up with it.
Well, I came across some extraordinarily aggressive boy racers in Dunstable on Saturday night, I might add. Councillor Williams.
So a couple of observations, Chair. I think the most important thing here is a recognition that many residents, that 20-mile-an-hour zones are very popular with our residents. And in that sense, we're responding to an aspiration that many residents have to have safer streets. That said, I think when you look in detail at some of the speed and volume surveys, many of our roads are operating, certainly at mean speeds of barely above 20 miles an hour already. And even when you get up to the 85th percentile, we're still, those speeds are still quite significantly below 30. So, you know, we're balancing on the one hand the evidence which is suggesting that average and 85th percentile speeds in many of our roads, I would contend, are not excessive. But nevertheless, many of our residents consider that this would represent a very important step in terms of road safety across our community. What I fear this won't do is stop the boy racers, because we need to recognise that for many of these roads, all there will be are the signs that as you enter the zone. There isn't any engineering works proposed to calm the traffic for the majority of the roads, and if there are certain roads which, you know, are straight and quiet and away from the daytime when there may be traffic calming as a result of parked cars in roads, when you've got off-street parking, there's no cars that are calming the traffic parked outside, then this is unlikely to deter boy racers, candidly. But anyway, if there is one issue in here which I would just ask the colleagues to recognise, is that in the case of Grove Road, where the mean speeds and the 85th percentile speeds are higher, it is proposed that there is traffic calming on Grove Road. And that's, I think, quite an important issue for us all to consider. I have personally taken the view, with regard to my own division, that those roads that represent the sort of key spines through the town, and so I would highlight Roundwood Lane, Station Road, Westfield Road, for instance. When we, as we probably inevitably will, move to 20-mile-an-hour zones over the rest of the town, those are probably roads that I would probably argue still to be retained at 30. And that's the issue, and that's, I would contend, an issue for Grove Road as well. Where you have got faster traffic, the County Council's speed management strategy will demand and require there to be engineering works, and that's what they're suggesting here for Grove Road. And I think you just need to reflect on whether you consider that's entirely appropriate. In the case of Grove Road, there is obviously, it's the location of a school, and that is a very specific issue in relation to Grove Road. But certainly, if I would, as we consider the rollout to this to other parts of Harpenden, I would be tending to consider that certain key spines remain at 30.
I do support this, actually. What I would say about Grove Road is that Grove Road is at the most dangerous towards the Piper's Lane end of Grove Road. And actually that's sometimes used as a test track by Pan Autos to test out their vehicles, although they will be moving, so I understand. I think that traffic calming, although people don't generally like it, it made a huge difference in Slip End, where they had a tremendous problem with speeding motorists. And they can do it in a way that doesn't damage vehicles, it just automatically makes people slow down. I think the other thing is that although it's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, there's a thing called the appropriate speed for a road. And I think that certainly the minor roads, of which I'm one of them, there's no, 30 is just too fast for those roads, really. So I understand Councillor Williams' concern about 30 miles an hour. And I've also had residents who are totally opposed to introducing 20 miles an hour in Grove Road. But I think, though, that we have got a consultation process, and we'll soon hear what the majority of people want to do.
I think it's something that's statutory.
Yes, so that's it. Thank you.
Yes, I was about to invite Councillor Heritage whether she would like to say anything about it.
Thank you very much, everybody, for allowing me to come this evening. It's quite appropriate I do, because I've got the results of the consultation, which shut last week. Can I just give you a bit of background? And so my aspiration had always been to make Cravels Road area 20 miles per hour. The Cross Farm Estate, which was one side of Grove Road, and if I call it Aldwick, Sibley, Grove, Park Estate, the other side, 20 miles per hour. And that's how I've been merrily jogging along forever, for the last 2 years, whilst we've been putting this together. I was on holiday, and I got an email from my highways engineer who said, the police won't support this unless you put traffic calming in Grove Road. Which I said, I don't want it, nobody's going to want it, but that's the only way you can put it forward. So I said, okay, let's consult, 1,000 miles away, couldn't really do much about it. So that's what we did. The result is that there is, we've got 371 returns, which is brilliant for a small area, but 60%, 61.5% are against the scheme, basically because of the speed restriction, the speed humps in Grove Road. And I haven't read them all yet, I've only just got this today. So it's all very disappointing to me, and I will be frank with you. I said so to my highway officer, and I said you can give that back to the police as well, because actually the aspiration I had for my residents probably won't happen now, or not in full, because I can't deliver all of what I want to do, and that's what I've been telling people I would do. So it's taught me a lesson, and it's also taught officers and the police a lesson as well about bringing things forward early. So I apologise that this may have caused you some verbal earache from your residents. So at the moment I've got to read all the responses, My immediate feeling is around this is that I will proceed with the Cravels Road 20 mile per hour and the Cross Farm 20 miles per hour, but I won't be able to take forward the other side, which is more a boy racer problem, because at the moment we're just not meeting the speed management strategy. I'm thinking about, and the rules around that basically is you have so many roads, X number of them must not be over 25 miles per hour, and on the north side there were too many compared to the number of roads and houses. So I'm not meeting that criteria. At the moment I'm thinking about how I can best serve those roads that I know have problems, which is Sibley, Grove Avenue, Meadway, which is a straight road up to Wheat Hampstead Road, it's a cut through from Cross Farm up onto the main road rather than using Piggott Hill Lane. I'm thinking that potentially in front of the school, where I have concern from parents and the head teachers, is in sort of doing similar to outside St Dominic's, where you've got that 20 mile per hour during school time. There's going to have to be some sort of traffic management there. That's my sort of thinking at the moment. I've still got to read the whole report and see where I go from there. But it's all a bit disappointing. So aspirations going forward for the town could be quite difficult, and I have suggested to officers, and I will be suggesting to senior officers of the County Council, that we need to review our speed management strategy actually to allow us to do within urban areas of the speed management. It's all about culture. How do we change the culture of the boy racer and the BMW driver and the Audi driver? Because we know we know who the cars are. We know where they live. So we know who they are. But it's how we can enforce it. Police won't enforce. So that's the problem we've got at the moment. But so I will report to you as we get further along. So, thank you. Happy to take questions, observations.
Right, Catherine, I'm just thinking this through, because we've got the proposal in front of us.
Yep.
And I understand there may have to be some tweaking, but I'm still inclined
that
we could take a vote on it, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because to demonstrate our
that's great.
support for this.
And submit it, because I'm sure we'll still be getting
I would like to do that, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So, could I ask, unless there are any further questions? Could I ask that we move then to vote on the recommendation 211, that the Council confirm its support for the proposal attached as Appendix 1.
Yes.
And one abstention.
Two.
2 abstentions. Oh, yeah, sorry, I should say, did you wish to abstain on both times?
Abstain.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, Madam Mayor, just along the same lines as Councillor Williamson.
Thank you very much. With that, closes the public part of the meeting, and we're now moving to exempt business.